Welcome guys to this is actually September's edition of the roundtable already. So as Mark said, for some of us end of summer, for some of us start of summer. So yeah, well, some rules ahead. So as you know, this is being recorded. I already clicked recording, so keep it professional so we can share it with the community later on. And for today or this meeting's agenda, or just I would like it to be a discussion. So just drop questions, keep it interactive. The more we discuss, the better. But the initial idea is to start with the tier zeros, a short tier zero update and call to action from my side. Then Eddie will present actual progress on the desktop wallet plugin manager, which was basically presented as a tier zero in August roundtable, but now we can already show some progress. And then, of course, Mark with ARKTippr and his on-chain API. And I guess some new things are coming up, Mark. And Winnie will give us a short update on the deployer of the direction and the progress we're going. And the last part, I'm going to present, let's say, some proof of concept project as a plugin, which was built on top of the core to add some quick and easy microservice capabilities to the core for developers to use. So as a start, so I would just like to talk about a bit about tier zero projects. We had a similar call to action in August. So these tier zero projects are for the whole ecosystem. So they're not just for us to provide specification, but if you think you have a good idea, if you think you know what you're going to build, will help the ecosystem, will help all the bridge chains inside our ecosystem, please reach out to us. We can define it together, and if it fits, if we get enough votes, of course we're going to put it on as a tier zero projects. And this can go different ranges. You know, you can scope it in a week, or you can scope it in, let's say, ARKTippr is now ongoing for 6 months, I guess. And it can also be on different platforms. So actually, so it can be on the core, it can be wallets, or it can be something else also outside the scope we think could get value to the whole ecosystem. So just think about it. We are building a platform, we are building an open source platform, so we are building this together. So that's why the tier zeros need to scale higher, because it on the one side you test the core product, which gives us the protocol and the blockchain underneath, but of course we have to provide more APIs, more solution on top of it to scale, to grow, and to give systems ideas and opportunities where blockchain can strive and provide value. Mostly targeting developers that are not familiar with blockchain, but the tools that we develop inside the tier zero projects can give them additional value, easy to use plugins, easy to use APIs to start with the blockchain. And yeah, so this is where all of us together as a community, as an ecosystem come in. So I would really like you to push harder, or to share it with some of your friends who know you are good and solid technology, so we get more input. And of course, there are a lot of tier zeros already open, and we'll be adding a few more this month, but these are all from our side. So you can see there are some desktop wallet core explorer stuff is open. So maybe some feedback from you guys. What do you think more people aren't jumping on these kind of things? Anybody? You can be honest.
Yeah, I think we're going on a good way with the tier zero. I really would love to see more people participate.
Yeah.
Maybe a wider range of projects, and maybe that people actually understand that they can also submit their own ideas.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I stressed out. Perfect. Just making notes. Yeah.
I will also, in my presentation later on, go into a little bit of how I experience the tier zero from my point of view. So maybe that helps also in this lineup.
Yeah, good. Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay, so yeah, that's about it for tier zeros. Let's jump to the first fresh tier zero project. So presented by Eddie, or our data delegate. So Yeah, the floor is yours. Go ahead, Edith.
Yeah, hi again, everybody. Can you give me the screen, or how do I?
Okay, I'll just make you a presenter and it's all yours. Okay.
All right, give me a second. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to show a few screenshots from the plugin manager. The designs are nearly complete by now.
Okay.
We expect to have the functionality finished sometime next week, and then the team will start some in-depth testing, and I will finish all the unit tests and that stuff. Yeah, this is a quick overview. Let me pull up the wallet actually. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can here we see our standard grid view. The plugins you see here are actually fetched from the npm registry. Yeah, it's just a simple view. Really, it's a table view, a grid view. We can toggle categories. Right now, these categories are predefined, and only these are available for now. This will, of course, be expanded when the time comes. Yeah, let me get back. We can use the details modal. We can install plugins. Right now, it isn't hooked to any visual effects yet, but you can see that the buttons toggled, and if you actually view the folder, we see the plugin is there now. We can delete it, and if you jump back, and now it's gone. And reloading and deleting all the stuff is hooked up, so you don't need to refresh or reload the wallet.
Okay.
It all loads directly. And yeah, from the designs, that's basically it for now. What will come next week is that you can install plugins directly through URL. Let's say you go to GitHub and you fetch the link to the zip archive. You can just paste it in here and it will install it for you. Likewise, you can select an archive from file via the zip or a tarball.
Nice.
And yeah, there's one thing. For the plugins to be recognized and to be able to be fetched through the wallet, they have to have some predefined keywords in the package manifest. And these keywords are shown here. And they are also already in the desktop plugin template repository. So if you want to develop a plugin, you just fetch that, just clone that repository, and you can start from there. You can add the keywords you want, but these 3 keywords are mandatory for a plugin to be able to be discovered. And the package manifest will need another property, which is defined as desktop wallet. And in there, you can put the categories, the permissions that your wallet needs. And for instance, there's also a URLs field. This one is needed only if you have the HTTP permission, I guess. And yeah, and that's basically it for now. So like I said, next week we plan to have the functionality finished. Maybe a week after that, or 2, let's say 2, there will be the official announcement and publication, so to speak.
Okay.
But the code for this is currently on my GitHub, so everybody that wants to have a look and try it out for themselves, they can just clone my repository and spin up the wallet if they want to do so. If there are any questions or wishes that anybody has for functions or stuff that needs to go in the plugin manager.
Hey Eddie, Mark here. Looks great. When you install from GitHub, you mentioned it will install from a zip file. Could you also do a normal Git clone? Could you integrate that?
Yeah, I mean, under the hood, it will still fetch the zip archive, but yeah, I think it's planned that you can just input the URL from the repository, and it will fetch the archive from there and unzip it for you.
All right, cool, thanks.
Okay, I mean, it looks really nice. Do we have any other ideas? What kind of plugins would we want to see inside the wallet besides, let's say, the games and some of the stuff that was already developed? I guess it will be much easier for users to find additional functionalities they need for the plugin manager. So because it will not be so tech savvy, but you can actually be a normal user. So any other ideas about what kind of plugins do we want? Let's say, do we want to do some kind of additional wallets or wallets for fetching some kind of events? Or, I mean, just thinking on top of my head, some of you guys being delegates are actually more leaned toward this way, but if we think a bit broader, like marketplace or the whole ecosystems, because in the end you will have only one wallet that will support all the chains. So it will be interesting what's gonna grow out of it.
What I really would like to see in the future, from a delegate viewpoint, is some kind of network statistics. Some delegates already have some dedicated services that display such information. Yeah. But having it inside the wallet directly would be nice to have, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, especially for the voters to assess the delegates, to see some updates. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Eddie, Vinny here. So I noticed that under the title of each plugin, there is ARK ecosystem and a check mark, a blue check mark. That's like a verified vendor. How would that be acknowledged for other plugin makers? For example, if you just talked about statistics plugin, we'll be thinking about making an ARKviz plugin for the wallet. How would that be recognized as an official package, for example, from myself or from other delegates?
So right now, this check mark is only available for the ARK ecosystem itself. What the wallet does, it just checks the scope of the NPM package, and if it's the officially defined scope, it adds a check mark. Right now, plugin developers will have to be vetted by the team. So there's no automatic. I don't even know if it's planned right now to have an automatic system for plugin developers to become verified in some way or the other. Same goes with the blacklisting that will be implemented.
I see.
So the blacklist will also be handled and vetted by the team initially. So the wallet will also offer you the option to report a plugin and hide it locally. And when your report has been approved or denied by dedicated team members, it will be excluded from the results from the NPM registry.
I see. So there will be a moderation of which plugins will be available on the plugin agent.
Yeah, but you will also have the option to disable the blacklist.
I see. That's really cool. Really like it. Nice job.
Thanks.
Yeah, maybe a comment on the vetting and moderation. Essentially, it goes in the line of the further developments and the stuff that's coming out with 2.6 and with the new bridge chain and business registration transactions. So essentially, these bridge chains and registered business are more or less will be able to become vendors that will be able to develop plugins, and these vendors will be moderated, at least in the MVP version, by us, so we know who to trust, because essentially installing a plugin and giving some kind of third-party access to your hard drive is really high security and very critical. We were already running bounty campaigns. We still have an active bounty campaign related to that, so that everything that is loaded is running in isolated environment, so we don't have access to the file system, or you don't load any additional npm packages like fs or fx extra, because then you're in, yeah. So you have like some backdoor execution. So, but so that's why we really want to, at least from the start, vet them, go through the source code. But still, the end decision which plugin to install will go through a few disclaimers, which we're already seeing now, and these disclaimers actually really stress out for the user to see what he's installing, so that he's not installing some kind of malware that would essentially could harm him or do some keylogger stuff. So yeah. Okay. Anything else for the plugin manager, guys?
Really go. Thanks, Eddie.
Eddie, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks you.
It looks really sexy.
All right, I must stop showing. Yeah, you got it.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, actually, next part of the tier 0 overview is now from Mark. Mark, do you want me to give you a presenter? I guess yes. So I'll just.
No, I don't need the presenter. Just leave this slide up, and I'll talk my way through it.
Okay, perfect.
Right, that will be easier, because at first I wanted to talk about a project that we're going to do next, but Matthew asked me to keep it under tabs for now, so we can discuss internally a few things before we announce anything. So I changed my presentation to give a general update on the tier 0 program and how I experience it.
Okay,
so
perfect.
To give a small overview, right? We started the tier 0, the first one, to create a better ARKTippr that can become a foundation for a wide integration of payment projects and ideas, like a level 2 payment system, right? And we did this with initially a 6 months planning, a 6 month setup. And these 6 months, we have now reached 5 months of those 6. So October is going to be the 6th month. And after that, we're going to have to do a serious evaluation and see what we can do, what we can do better, what we did good, etc. So I'm taking a little pre-evaluation of that here. So the things what we could have done better so far, in my opinion, is that we should have split this up in smaller tier 0s, which would allow for a better flow in spending time, which would have allowed for a small break if needed. I ran into somewhat of a writer's block, which always happens in larger projects, and sadly that is now part of the time we are spending, right? So it would be better manageable, and it would give me also a greater sense of accomplishment if I could just sign off this one done, this one done, this one done. Even though with the current tracking and monitoring on the ARK.io website, we have a good way to get a feeling of where we are. But in general, smaller projects would probably be better manageable. We should do a better definition of each project. We went into it with a very open setup, and I think we can be more efficient and basically better in general if we define things a little bit better, and if we have better feedback loops. So since this all is new and we're all starting to work on how to report things, how to be all on the same page, I think even though the communication is good and short, right, there's no hurdle to reach each other, but I think a better feedback loop would be beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the first projects. Yeah, we learned some of this feedback, we improved some of the stuff. It's actually true.
Yeah, I think that is the good thing. This is the first. So I started off with what we can do better, so I can end up on a positive note. So the things that we did good, right? Because it's really nice to work intensively on blockchain integration and apps specifically. I like doing that. I like to have the opportunity to do that. I like to be able on the forefront of what we're doing within this project, within ARK. And it's really cool to do this. So everybody who likes or has an interest in these kind of projects, I really recommend that you get creative and bring out these ideas and give them to Matthew and to Chris, so they can judge and can talk with you and can define projects that you can do, because this really is a good opportunity. This really is fun to do. What I also find great is that it's the integration with the team, right? You're kind of a part of the team on this specific subject, and that also gives kind of a sense of accomplishment, and it's really nice to work with you guys, right? So,
thanks.
And finally, what I really like is to see the usage in the community of what we're building and the feedback from the community. People like what we're doing. People are all, in ARKTippr case, people are all happy about it, right? People like using it. People are proud of using it. So that gives all a really good, I don't know, makes me proud, right? Let's do it like that.
Yeah.
Right. The applause doesn't come from my side.
Yeah, Simon.
So into conclusion, the Tier 0 program offers a very nice and challenging projects, right, to work on for independent developers. So I really would recommend to anybody out there, then participate. Not only in the projects that are listed on the website, but come with your own ideas. And I know there's a lot of things possible, and a lot of things can be coordinated. Next month is the final month of the 6 months period that we initially signed off on. So I will concentrate mostly on finishing up unit tests. I discussed with Brian last month a few possible improvements, and when you discuss with Brian, there's always a lot of improvements. So we're going to work on that, and we're gonna well, I'm gonna work on that, and gonna deliver something that will last. And after that, yeah, we're gonna talk, and we're gonna see there's a lot of things on the initial list and on the exploratory list that can still be done, and I'm looking forward to discuss how and when and what and where and why, etc. So as far as I'm concerned, I really like doing this. And I can recommend it to everybody. So questions, what do you people think?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you for the kind words, and above all, being honest, because the feeling is mutual. I mean, we started with an open defined project, you know, and we improved along the way, as normal. Everything in iteration goes. So it was quite broad, and I really like the feedback about splitting it into smaller parts and smaller tier zeros. I guess writer blocks wouldn't happen, and the sense of accomplishment definitely makes sense. Another thing you mentioned is better definition of each project, you know, and the feedback loop, which is kind of true. I think there is still a room for improvement there. One thing is like defining the tier 0, making it more strict, but not too strict, because you still have to leave a creative room, but not so much. Yeah. But feedback loop is something that also takes time from both of us. So that's why also these tier 0s were the meetings we have now every month, the roundtable. Part of the idea also is to engage more developers or more users. So the feedback loop would be even better, you know, because like I'm thinking from now core perspective, you're thinking from end user perspective, or making a better API, and then there are just the end users that have also like a ton of ideas on top of it, and meetings like this with even wider audience that we're having, hopefully we will be growing numbers, so the feedback loop will also get better. So yeah. And it was also nice communicating with you. I mean, there are no hurdles there. You're actually on Slack, so at least the only hurdles are different time zones because we are trying to reach each other. But otherwise, yeah, it was a good experience from our side too. And definitely we learned a lot and improved the process along as we speak. Yeah. So we really appreciate this kind of feedback.
All right.
I guess Eddie can comment now that his specifications were a bit more strict. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been enjoying my time.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Again, thanks, man.
All right, you're welcome. Anybody else? Questions?
Yeah. Is my microphone working?
Oh, hi.
Hey, so my assumption is this is probably going to be the most difficult time for setting up tier zeros and plugins because there's not much of a paved way, but I just figure that more people would come out as the experiences are established.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Test.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the early birds, the early adopters are always the hardest to jump on, and I guess with more and more plugins will grow, more and more people will be coming in. But I guess we would love to rely on organic growth, like, you know, like Mark sharing his good positive experience, like now you guys being part of this roundtable, just talking with friends, putting them, directing them to our websites, brainstorming ideas. I guess it takes time, yeah, but it's growing. So when's your next tier zero coming up?
It's a good question. I definitely want to say though that Mark and Eddie, you guys have some great looking projects, and very excited to see how they come out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have anything else for Mark? Okay. Mark, thanks again. So that was feedback from ARKTippr, Delegate Cryptology, and we have another tier zero. Winnie will talk about deployer and the progress from the last time. I think I'm just gonna hand it over to you. So go ahead, Winnie. Do you need a presenter or?
No, I just need. I'll just talk this time.
Mm-hmm.
So just one thing on what Mark said about feedback on tier zero. Since I started with a tier zero, I think it might be a good idea to have maybe an AMA for tier zero projects. I thought that was really helpful for me to getting more feedback from the community and questions. And not many people are able to show up to the roundtables.
Okay.
But more people often show up to the AMAs. I think it would be nice if we maybe could have an AMA for tier zero projects. And also some people also have questions about getting started with a tier zero project and asking, if this project, I have this project in mind, would it be a good tier zero candidate? I think it would be nice to have an AMA for tier zeros. But now back on the deployer. So I'll give you guys a short update for one-click deployer. So one-click deployer, the way it is different from ARK deployer is the ARK deployer you already know. It's the one that I used to do a bridge chain core update demo in the last roundtable. And that deployer, it is more hands-on. It's a more hands-on product. You interact with your servers yourself. While one-click, it deploys everything automatically for you. And for one-click, we're finishing up on the deployer management UI, which is a front-end dashboard that we're designing. We're designing following along the same style, the same branding of all the other ARK products. So we're using Tailwind CSS and Vue.js for this dashboard, just like the ARK wallet and the Explorer and the website. And this is the point of most interest, besides everything that's happening under the hood on one-click. this is where most of the users will be interacting with one-click the most, and it is one of the most important aspects of this project, and it's what we're working on right now. So at the moment, the bridge chains and all the nodes, they are being deployed on core 2.5.26. I mean 25. My apologies, and some 2.6. As soon as 2.6 comes out, we'll start testing one-click on 2.6, and we're looking at customization for all the custom transactions and all the good new features that are coming on 2.6. And now also one-click, I'll just call it one OC for now. It is able to bootstrap a new network really easy because you can deploy a network and many relays at once. It wasn't able to do that in one single step a while ago. So now I'm able to, for example, deploy a network with 51 delegates, and each delegate will be on its own server by default in one click by default. This is one new feature that we're implementing. We're just testing it right now. And another feature that we have right now is SSH authentication. Before last month, for each new server that deployed, it would generate a randomly generated password for each server, and that could be cumbersome when managing many servers. If I have 50 servers, I would have to keep track of 50 different passwords, and for now it's more similar to what we have with other cloud server providers. You just have one single or many SSH public keys added to each server at the moment that they are deployed, and so you can use one form of authentication for your entire network if you want to. And besides the dashboard UI, some updates that we're currently doing on OC are more related to monitoring. So we're still working on adding more support for getting feedback of how each node is running, if the nodes are forked, if they are keeping up with the network. Some checks that we want to implement from one click. So if the user deploys a network on one OC, they will get a feedback of how the network is running. I think that's another cool aspect of 1C. Many people, myself, I have my own set of scripts to track my nodes and to monitor my nodes, but having this kind of functionality on OC, I think it is a really good feature to have on something of the sorts of OC. I'm not going to show you guys how the dashboard UI looks just yet, but we'll be showing a preview really soon. We're expecting to have OC out in Q4, and I find myself using OC even now during development. I find myself using it all the time to deploy bridge chains, to do testing, because it's just so easy and saves so much time, even for someone familiar with ARK like myself, and let alone someone that's new to blockchain and that's just getting their feet wet. Sometimes it can be intimidating to start a new bridge chain, and you have to do many things on the command line. For some people, that can be intimidating, and I think OneC will help get more people started with bridge chains overall. And I'm looking really forward to have you guys try it. So we'll be releasing probably a private beta soon, so you guys can test it. And before we do an actual release, because it's always good to have other people trying it first and receive more feedback. And in Q4, we'll be doing an official release. It's what we're expecting. And not all the features, we have more features coming out, and we'll be updating the deployer one-click roadmap. We'll be adding the new some new features that were requested by the community, more support for customization. Instead of doing things with config files, we'll be having more customization options on the dashboard itself, on the graphic user interface itself. So stay tuned. Now the end of Q3, we're still working on the dashboard, and soon you guys will be having a look at how one-click is looking like.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for this detailed update. I hope you guys were listening and paying attention. So a lot of stuff is coming, especially related to bridge chains and nodes which are already incompatible with current master version, yeah, as you said. And I really like the deployment of multiple servers at once. So one click, like kind of becoming multi-click deployment. And I mean, SSH was really a nice add-on because we all know no need to enter the password, and you can just administer all the servers.
One of the features that was requested, and it's something that we'll be looking at after the first release, is using one-click to not only work with new bridge chains, but to also manage nodes on existing existing core chains. So for example, I could use one-click to deploy ARK mainnet and DevNet nodes, or I could use one-click to deploy other bridge chains nodes. So not necessarily deploying a new bridge chain, but deploying nodes on existing bridge chains. That's another. It's something that was requested on, I believe, an AMA to the last AMA was requested, and it's another feature that we'll be adding to the roadmap. It will be really nice to manage multiple nodes.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, is there anything planned? Like, I guess when you say managing multiple nodes, you mean like starting them, stopping them, updating them, seeing the version that is running there. Will there be a way to pull the logs or see just the live log of the node, not needing to to SSH into it?
Yeah. So one click, we don't have access to any nodes. We don't. We only add the user's SSH key. We don't want to have access to their servers because of the passphrases are in the servers. We don't want that kind of liability. But for managing nodes, there will be a plugin, an ARK core plugin that will be built in on every node that deployer will be deploying. And that's not coming in the first initial release. It's something that it's on the roadmap, but we'll be able to manage nodes and do certain actions like updating, restarting, installing plugins from this plugin that one click will use to manage nodes. So we have management capabilities without needing SSH and server access. And that's coming after the initial release, but it will be even better for people. Even if you only have one server, you don't have to do. You don't need a SSH access. You can just log in on the dashboard and install updates and manage your server that way. But also, instead of new bridge chains, if I want to just deploy a new server on the ARK main chain, for example, instead of doing it myself, I could use one click to do that. And if on the DevNet, on the mainnet, or on other bridgings that were not deployed by me, but were deployed by other teams.
That's really awesome. Can't wait. I'm really looking forward to these updates, especially the last one, the node management, because it opens so much opportunity. Not just the bridge chains maintainers, but if you look at from, let's say, more enterprise perspective, like system administrators managing a custom supply chain or that is running inside some kind of closed vendor or private network. I guess the first questions they're going to ask, how do I manage this? Where do I see the nodes? And having a tool that will deliver all these features or basic answers to them is going to make them more comfortable in using the technology and jumping into it with more trust, of course. And if the sysadmin, the network guys are more confident, then we get more green lights down the road.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited about one click.
So that was just me and Vinny discussing. So do you have any other questions for the one click, one OC?
Yeah, I got a question. Vinny, I'm really digging the expansions with your node management and customizations. I've always liked the idea of seeing custom transaction types sort of like put into the deployer if that can be done. This question wouldn't be like directly towards you, but you are certainly intertwined with the command line because of your work on the project. Previously, when upgrading core from one version to the next, I've had modifications done to my node and they would be completely reset, like completely rolled back to the point where I hadn't even, done any modifications at all after like upgrading from 2.3 to 2.4 or something. I'm wondering if we can move past this to on core upgrades, like when an upgrade is done, if it doesn't just wipe everything, and then once that's done, seeing an expansion to like the ARK command line where we can see things like git diff, where it shows you the difference between upgrades. And I mean, really, I see the ARK CLI already becoming very similar to Git, and I think expanding things like this might be a good way to go forward.
Yeah, thanks for the question. The way you will update core will be changing. I cannot talk much about it right now because we're still working on it, but it will be different than the way it is done right now. But at the moment, with the update script, we'll be looking at what it does is it looks at all the changes that you've done, and it will not wipe everything. That if you have any changes, it won't wipe them. It will not let you update your bridge chain unless you've committed all your changes. But for bridge chains, using the ARK CLI, there's a little bit more. There's some more work to do by the bridging operator, and they have to get hooked on npm and do some routines for the users. But on the next versions of core, it will be much easier to update. You will only have to. It will be a more modular approach. It's how I would say it. You will only update what you. It's a little tricky because I can't talk much about it.
Well, I think I understand it. Not being able to stage like without committing first. I think that's a really good idea. I haven't tried the deployer recently, so I can't really talk too much about it. But that's definitely a great idea in the right direction.
It's a focus after 2.6. We're focusing on 2.6 at the moment and getting 2.6 out. And that's something that will be a focus of the core team after 2.6 is making core more modular. And the way all this new it is already modular, but the way it will be post 2.6 updates will be a lot easier than now. We'll see. Maybe for example, let me think of an example. At the moment, many people are adding core files directly instead of making plugins to extend the functionality. And that's one approach that some people use to extend core that's not really advisable. Because like you said, when you upgrade, you're gonna run into merge conflicts and you're gonna have files overwritten.
Right.
The way core will be handled post 2.6, that won't be a problem anymore, because everything will be a separate package. Each functionality of core will be a separate package. And for updating, the updates, we won't have an update script for deployer anymore. It will be built in on core. So core will have its own update functionality that will be ported to all other bridge chains by default. And you'll see how it will be. It will be it can be a little bit overshore now if you modify the files yourself and if you don't make plugins for your extended functionality, but that's something we have in mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we answered most of the stuff, but the way I like to remember it, like we were talking like WordPress or blockchains, but if you go a while back, if you think about the web servers, and that's the way I also outline it in the latest tutorials for custom transaction. Now it's like the core is becoming a server, like it was like a web servers, and the plugins are becoming an application that will be run on top of the core. So when you'll be running core on different chains, you'll be essentially more or less dependent on configuration files and not so much about checking the diffs and all the stuff that was happening. But so this is the long-term road we are going there, and it's not just going to be 2.6. It will be, I guess, after the later updates. But I guess you got the feeling where you're going.
Yeah, sounds great so far.
Thanks. Okay, thank you, Vinny, for the third presentation and good discussion.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. So, anything else for Vinny? Okay, let's jump on the last part then. So, I would like to talk briefly. So we're almost in an hour, and maybe do a short demo. So we were like, playing and discussing inside the team, just looking at the options of the serialization on the core level. And out of this, we stumbled, or we also checked gRPC, so the remote procedure call framework from Google. Just give me heads up if you know it. So I'm just gonna speed up for the first couple of slides. But essentially, what started is, let's say, a serialization assessment update of the core serialization, of the transactions, the third process. Came out to another motivation, because essentially, if you develop a core, a platform, or something you want to give the developers, you want to give them tools, so they can build on top of it. And one of the questions is, so when you talk with, let's say, customers or projects or people building on top of ARK is, so how can I expand? So how can I add custom transactions? So we have answers for that. So you use GTI. But how do you add new API calls? And out of this, I was just playing with a project with the gRPC, because the motivation was, to enable a developer to add new endpoints, so to the core, without changing the existing endpoints, without changing the existing rules, but give it more or less like a declarative way to declare services and just implement the business logic. So the rest should be handled by some kind of generators or stuff. So to make it a walk in the park. Copyright Justin. And of course, that's the core part. So that's the server part, let's say. And I also want to add it out of the box support for the clients, because every time we update the API, every time we add new transaction, new API endpoints, we have to implement this support also in the API. So each API, each language needs to get updated. So this is like a cumbersome process, and I was looking at a way to automate and realize this as a plugin. So I started to look at protocol buffers and came with gRPC, which is basically a framework from that Google uses for internal APIs and to manage all of their cloud infrastructure. So it's actually combat proven by them. And it also has a generator, which added additional plus points because you define a service and you can generate the client code. So let's say C++, Go, PHP, Java clients can just be generated through the command line, and you don't need to lose resources or developer power to implement this. And it should be fast, yeah. So it uses HTTP2. And it provides some kind of services that, let's say, enterprises are used to, because you want to add, if you want to add addition, authentication, or billing or something on top of it, you can still extend it. So basically, gRPC is a protocol. Yeah, you can make API calls which HTTP support, so it's bloody fast. I want to stress this point actually pretty strong. So this is something that we are not considering to be as a replacement for our super awesome REST API we have, but is just giving more options. Like you have, I don't know, Java or .NET, just giving developers more options where they can choose, build, and scale faster. Yeah. So basically, from the motivation to realization, so we develop a POC plugin. It's really a POC plugin that enables adding of services to the core or any other bridge chain in a seamless and almost fully declarative way. Yeah. So these services are fully supported with the logic from Google RPC. Yeah, I'm going to show. Basically, you can develop services that are event-based, that are publish, subscribe. So you can open stream-based services. You can open channels. So this would be very useful for, let's say, IoT projects where you don't want to install additional MQTT plugins, but you just want a stream of sensor data coming somewhere to the node or from somewhere. You just declare an API endpoint. I'm going to show you in the demo later on how easy it is. And so to get the full power of the, let's say, declarative power of adding services to core, I wanted to do this with minimal effort. So one is to define, let's say, a service endpoint. Yeah. So what kind of method we're going to call. And another one is to implement the business logic of this method. So I was not interested in everything else below the core. Yeah. So that was the goal. So the core gRPC plugin. So we do this in 3 steps. Yeah. Now, if you see on the slide, first step is to define the protocol buffer service. So meaning we define the structure of the message. So this is here on the right side of the slide, where you can see the block request and the block reply structure. So I just define the message that will be passed on as a service. Yeah. This message will be serialized under the hood, optimized away from ISO, but by the gRPC API. And I have to define the method. So actually on the left side, you see, this is the protocol language. I define the remote procedure method, get blocks, and the response and reply structure. So it can be empty. In this case, the second method returns a stream. So I can just continue to listen to the events of the blockchain as an alternative to webhooks if I want, and just open a stream. And the last part, when I define so this is like metadata. So this is for the code generation part, which is basically a configuration of the plugin. So where can I find the service definition files and which services I want to define. This is basically defined one time. And of course, after I define the structure of the messages, so either transactions or blocks or IoT sensor data or something else, all I have to do is implement my method. Yeah, you see here you have on this slide, you see I'm showing up a method which is actually get blocks. It receives a request and a response structure that was defined with the protocol language, and then inside it I just implement some kind of logic. In this case, I find the block by ID and I send it back. Yeah. So the 3 steps are now, so define the structure of the message, and the last step of the third step is to implement it. As we all know, we prefer to see some of the code. So let me take you for the plugin. I'm going to switch my screen to yeah, just give me a second. That's kind of too big, I guess. Yeah, I'm just gonna, okay, jump to the editor. So this is my plugin, and you see, actually for the block service, if I want to listen to what's happening with the block data, I define the structure of the message in these two files. So I'm not sure if you can track my mouse. Do you see it? You should see it, yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, okay, so on the left side here you have a service pickup proto, which is service.proto, which is the definition of the service I want to extend, yeah. And actually I define the service, so which is the name of the service, and okay, under this service I'm gonna have two methods or endpoints, more methods because these are multi-procedure call, and these services are gonna receive either this kind of structure, which is block request and block reply, and this structure was defined in this file, which is model.proto. So that's all I had to do, yeah. So the next step inside the plugin was for me to implement this service. So if we look at the blocks TypeScript method, you can see, okay, I extend the base service class because I inject some of the blockchain stuff like the repositories. But essentially, all I did was implement the methods that were defined in the proto file. So I implemented the getBlocks method and getBlocks as a stream method, yeah. And that's it, yeah. The plugin itself. So the part in the background is actually the service builder class, which actually goes through all the proto files, yeah. It loads the definitions that were defined and makes actually dynamically instantiates all the service endpoints. And you can actually define which, so this is package definition, so sorry for the full path, but it's just for the demo. But essentially you can define each service if you want to have it enabled or not, or whatever. I mean, this is just in the JSON file, but further down the line, this could be done with decorators or injected some other way. It was just to show the possibilities that can be done with gRPC. So let me just start up the testnet to see if it's running. So it should actually pick up all the three services. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, and it started the server, which is different API server on this point. And now I'm going to switch to, so we have the services running, the business logic is here. So if you check the blocks, we get some responses from there. Yeah, so it's just a minimal proof of concept. And if we go to the client, yeah. So here the client operates in the same way as I told you. So all we have to do is load the service definition file. So I'm gonna load the service definition file for, let's say, for the blocks, yeah. And it immediately recognizes the methods that are defined, and I can actually just now call the method, and so get a response. Or if I want to just to listen to the chain as a stream, so I'm going to start a stream call, yeah. So you can see now that the server is streaming. So I sent an empty message, but I should be now receiving blocks, so every 8 seconds or so. So it's really fast, yeah. It's easy to add new features. And it's running on HTTP too, so you can imagine like some kind of IoT data running on top of it. So the whole project was done as a proof of concept, just to show the possibilities. But in the end, if you look at the source code, so we had to just tell what kind of services we want. Yeah, if we want a stream service, we just say it's a stream. and the rest is handled by gRPC. And in the business implementation, we have to declare the service name and add the logic. So the rest is done in the background. So if you imagine you or somebody else just adding new features, trying to monitor to some kind of logs, add additional data, this could be done just independent plugin to give you more fast access to, I don't know, to logs, to gather more stuff, or to collect IoT, either is sensor data or something from the chain, essentially in a few minutes, just by defining free files. Sorry. So that's why I kind of like this approach, and it's not something new. Actually, it's a battle proven by Google in all its backend architecture. So that's why I kind of see it as an alternative to REST, by not replacing the REST, but just pushing. You know, you want to add a new service, you want to add 5 new services, you have a developer there in the company, somebody who wants to just scale and build faster. You just give him, look, define your service, define your messages, implement your business logic, and you're done. Yeah. So and yes, the most important part. Oh yes. So what I'm gonna do now with all the clients? Well, no problem. I mean, with gRPC, you get all the client generation code. So the serialization part, the consumption of services. So everything is actually implemented by running the code generator, and it really works. So I tested it. So I kind of like it. So, but this is my personal view. But also, what I want to say is, so it's an experimental plugin. So you have the link here below. There's much more. It needs testing. It needs a refactor. It needs more events. But it's just it's a very good proof of concept to see what you can do, and then just yeah, to move forward. So. Yo, questions? I know you're tired.
So, yeah, I've got a couple questions. I'll have to check out your project once the presentation ends. So with gRPC, I guess my question would be pertaining to the authentication tokens. If I'm understanding correctly, I think like Google does their own, maybe OAuth2 does also. I would wonder if ARK would be looking to make their own like access tokens or backend for this, or would they be utilizing OAuth2 or Google, or is there another place that does authentication tokens? I'm not really sure.
I mean, you have, if I remember correctly, I looked into this, and you have, I think, 3 options for authentication. One is using OAuth, yeah, as you said, from Google, and you have also option to implement your own token. So it's
very cool.
It's really cool. So imagine running a private chain, yeah. Imagine having some, I don't know, secure or more authenticated endpoints, like I don't know, give me some logs, give me some secure data, which I want not just to be whitelisted, but I want authenticated. So this is where this comes in, and yeah, I mean, it works. I was just playing with the basic one. I didn't go with the custom implementation.
I think it actually like almost forces you to use encryption, which is pretty cool. You know, I actually like that.
Mm-hmm. It has really a lot of possibilities. So it's not here to replace our open public REST API, but it can definitely grow into something much bigger for, let's say, private or enterprise clients, or anything you want to just close to a subset of users. Yeah. And
right. It's just efficient.
Yeah.
It's just like adding the WebSockets. You know, you just want to expand, and add more and more stuff.
And you know, the under the hood, the protocol is stable. It's working. It's not like it was. There were issues like 3 years back, but now it has grown into a mature package, and it works. I mean, I was just pushing a lot of data through it, like blocks or transactions or events, or I mean, just define the protocol definition, and you have a stream-based service on top of the core, which without needing to implement a socket or anything else. I think that's really a big add-on.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out once the presentation ends.
Yeah, sure. Okay, guys, do you hear me? Because I have some audio problems.
Yeah, we hear you.
You still hear me?
Just saying, I really love this idea. I'm already thinking of how I can benefit from this for the ARKTippr. Already head spinning what we can do. So yeah, keep them lining up. Keep the ideas coming. I love it.
Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, you can hear me. I have some audio problems. Good, perfect. Here's the link. I'm just gonna drop it here. But this is just a proof of concept, so don't kill me for not optimized code. Okay, guys. Any other questions or open debates? I really liked today's discussions. I think they were quite fruitful. PJ. Well, it can be also server to server. So we have actually, so we have both options. I think I lost one slide. What you can do, so you can do actually 4 types of calls. So you can do like event-based, like call a service and receive a response. Then you can do a stream on the client side and a response from the server side. Then you can do a stream on both ends. And I think you can do a server to server also. Yeah. Related to IoT, you have some translators also that make it compatible. Actually, you can just drive also back to REST if you want, but yeah. Requirements for a client in IoT, for client, you can just generate your C code, which is basically you can embedded code. The client is very lightweight, so the structure, the serialization is generated for you. So I think you could. I haven't tried to run it on some ESP or some other microcontrollers, but I think you guys are going to try this now. So there are some console commands you can execute. I was just generating Java code, and yeah, I think C++, but I didn't try to cross compile it for smaller stuff. Yeah. Perfect. Great discussions we had. I hope we keep this discussion monthly, and yeah, the feedback loops are getting bigger and bigger. So thanks again, and yeah, see you soon. Bye, guys.